Hello, Miss. In advance, I thank you for taking your time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Alfi. Nice to meet you.
To meet you. How old are you? Sorry.
What?
How old are you?
I'm 19.
Oh, you don't have to call me Miss. Just call me Radwa.
Yes. Uh, so, what's your name?
Radwa.
Oh, Miss Rachel.
Mm-hmm. You can just call me Radwa.
Yes. I know if UK consists of many countries like England, Scotland, and others. So, where exactly do you live?
So I live in England, specifically northwest London. So
Ah,
south of England, northwest London.
and what is your job now?
Legal assistant.
Oh, I see. So, what culture is very important and always celebrated in UK?
In terms of UK culture, because the UK is so diverse and it's a secular country, so we don't culture isn't really based on religion, for example. I'd say the core values of British culture would be respect, tolerance, because it's so diverse, just be tolerant of each other. Um, that's what I could think of mainly. Respect and tolerance are some of the core values of UK culture, British culture.
I see. Then, what is the culture
Mm-hmm.
in your hometown?
In London, yeah. So,
Yes, yes.
so I live on the suburbs of London. Um, I'd say it's the most multicultural city in the whole of England because it is the capital. So you have people from everywhere. And I'd say, again, the same core values of tolerance, respect. Um, yeah, pretty much the same values generally because it is the most diverse city.
Yes, that's wonderful. And do you know about the immigrants? Where do
Yes, I'm.
you, uh,
Yeah,
where,
I was going to
where do they usually live?
I'd say immigrants live in major cities like London, Manchester, Birmingham, loads of immigrants, and immigrants come from everywhere. We have like now we're having a an increasing amount of Ukrainians, for example. We have a lot of Eastern Europeans, Romanians, Polish. Um, but it came in waves. So it started off with like the Caribbeans, the people from Jamaica, and the Caribbean West Indians. Then you had the Asians, like the Indians and the Pakistanis. Then you had the Arabs, myself. Then you had um, Eastern Europeans. So it came in like stages, but there's loads of immigrants. And immigrants, in my opinion, is what makes London London so diverse and multicultural.
Wow, that's
So
cool.
when you ask me about London culture, it's very hard for me to define what London culture is because of how diverse London is. There's so many different cultures. Like even though I'm Arab, I celebrate Desi culture, which is like Pakistani culture, Indian culture. I eat Pakistani food, Indian food. We love Chinese food. My friends are from Asia. So I can't give you a specific culture because of how diverse London is. There's no specific culture. It's like we celebrate everything.
Yeah, I see.
And that's one of the things I love.
So the immigrants also participate in carrying out the culture there.
Sorry.
It means the immigrants also participate in carrying out the culture in London and UK.
100%. They create a culture here as well. Not only do they embrace UK culture and respect it, because that is one of the values, but they also make up the culture.
Oh,
For
yeah.
example, you know what the national dish of England is?
Oh,
Do you know what the national dish of England is?
no, I don't.
It's an Indian curry. That is the national dish of England. It's an Indian curry.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So that's how diverse it is. The national dish of English people is Indian curry.
This great. And about literature, I know only of old poets like William Shakespeare and his friends. And do you know what literature is there?
So I studied literature in school, and I could tell you is Shakespeare, Mary Shelley, um, what- Mary Shelley's a big one. Who was it that wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Just old Victorian poets, people from that era. Um, yeah, I'd say we study those guys a lot. The main people we study,
Yeah.
William Blake. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's William Shakespeare and his friends, his counterparts and contemporaries. It's the same. We study those ones.
I see. And which literature is most popular in London?
Very hard to say. It just because you've got the Victorian poetry, you've got 19th century poetry, I think it's called, but then you do also have modern poetry. Um, a lot of modern poetry I don't really like myself. I prefer the old style. I'm trying to think of a because I studied modern poetry. I'm trying to. I didn't like it that much, so I can't even tell you which one was my favorite. I didn't have a favorite. I found it to be kind of boring, in my opinion. It's not. It doesn't. It's not of interest to me. So I don't know much about modern poetry. Didn't pay attention in that class, but novels. I could tell you, I really like Margaret Atwood. Have you heard of Margaret Atwood? Yeah, the feminist. Sorry, my battery's dying. Yep. Yeah, so Margaret Atwood for modern poetry. Sorry, modern novels. And Khalid Hosseini. I don't know if you know Khalid Hosseini.
No, I don't.
You don't know? The Thousand Splendid Suns? Yeah, he's a very good author. You should check him out.
Oh, I'll check it later.
Mm-hmm.
And about the history of British. What do you know about the history of the monarchy?
So we learned a lot about monarchs, specifically certain kings or queens. The most important ones, the ones that get studied the most, in my opinion, are, for example, King Henry VIII, my favorite one, Queen Victoria. I think those two. Yeah, I'd say those two are the most studied. Their times are the most studied. So the Tudors, for example, and the Victorians.
Yeah, and in your opinion, who is the king or queen who has the most influence of the country and is famous for his police?
I would say King Henry VIII because he was the first monarch to have 6 wives. And even though the Roman Catholic Church, did not allow for divorces to happen, he created his own church, the English Church, so that he can divorce his first wife. So he was the first person to introduce that, King Henry VIII. Yes, I would say because of how he separated the church, I would say he has the most influence. There's another one. I can't remember his name though. He was the one that was introducing too much taxes on the people. And so that's when the monarch just became head of state and parliament became the main legislature. They became the body that creates and passes laws. Whereas before it was the monarch, now it's just parliament. I can't remember his name though. I should know his name, but I forgot it.
Oh, yes, okay. And so, what is the difference between parliament and monarchy?
So the monarch is head of state. They can't really introduce laws themselves. As in, they can't pass laws, not introduce, but pass laws. Whereas Parliament is split into the House of Commons and the House of Lords, and they are the body that they create and pass laws for the UK. Whereas in my opinion, the monarch is just a symbol. They bring tourists in the country, and they've got a history, so it's inherited. The monarch is inherited. Whereas with Parliament, they're elected by the people. The Prime Minister is elected. So I'd say Parliament has more power in comparison to the monarch.
It's very interesting information. I'm very grateful to you.
That's okay.
Thank you very much for helping
Praise.
me.
That's okay. I wish you the best.
I hope you have a nice day.
And you have a good evening.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.